How does that aspect of a milestone that's attainable inside of the bigger goal, how do you fold that into your leadership style? You're leading these expeditions. There's an added responsibility, safety, risk management. There's a lot to manage on top of the physical well-being of everybody. How does that play out?
Well, I think there's a few things that go into that. First is I'm going to use an example from one of my mentors over the years, a great climber, an incredible guide named Vern Tejas. I learned so much from this guy about leadership when I would climb with him. But Vern Tejas I don't even know how many times he's done the seven summits now. I can't even count. Multiple times he's done the seven summits.
And
He
I mean,
also
look,
did
can we just take a Tenzing Norgay, Vern, what's his name?
Vern Tejas.
Vern Teat, Junko Tabai. I mean, these names, they're just on their own. They're incredible names.
Yeah, so Vern did the first winter solo climb of Denali in Alaska. He's an incredible guide, but something that really stuck with me was when I was climbing with him on Mount Elbrus in Russia. And it was one of the first mountains I'd ever been to. I think the second mountain I'd ever been to in my life. And it's the highest peak in Europe. And I was really struggling with the weight in my pack and my quads were burning and I was exhausted and I was struggling with the altitude and we stopped for a break and Vern said, "How's everybody doing?" And everybody was chiming in, doing great, feeling good, feeling good." And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? My quads are screaming. I'm struggling to breathe. My lungs hurt. I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm running out of steam. And it made me start thinking, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I shouldn't be here because everyone's saying how great they're doing and I'm really struggling. So everyone chimes in, "Oh, doing great, let's go." And Vern said, "Okay, I guess I'm the only one whose quads are screaming and who's feeling this altitude headache." And when he said that he was having a hard time, when he was struggling with it, and look, he's such an elite climber. I'm sure he really wasn't struggling at that point, but now that I know him better and I've been on more mountains with him, but the fact that he said, "This is really hard for me," made me feel better because I thought, okay, this is supposed to be hard. It's hard for everybody. It's not just me who's struggling. And so then I became okay with feeling exhausted and spent and my lungs hurt and my head hurt. I just had to learn to feel okay with that because I thought this is normal. And if guys like Vern have screaming quads and banging headaches, then I'm doing just fine. And
Yeah.
so it was just a great lesson about, they call it that term, there's that term toxic positivity, right? Where everybody's just, oh, everything's great and everything's perfect and I'm feeling great and I'm doing
Yeah.
great and I'm achieving so much and I've had nothing but success. And, it's a great lesson in that you should allow yourself to feel the struggle. You should allow
Right.
yourself to feel the pain, allow yourself to feel the discomfort, right? When you feel those things, you know you're human and you know you're normal. And so for Vern to point out that feeling all this stuff is just part of the process gave me the confidence to know I do belong here. I can do this. And what I'm feeling is very normal instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. Maybe I'm not cut out for that. So that was
And
just, one of the great leadership lessons I learned from
and you talked about the discomfort and being uncomfortable and that if you can inhabit that, I guess, as part of it, even if you're, an elite performer in mountaineering like you or Vern, it doesn't mean that it's a piece of cake and a walk in the park, pardon the
him.
metaphor. It's quite the contrary. I mean, any elite athlete, I'm thinking, I love tennis. They train, they're fit. I'll use the pun, rarefied air, but it's still hard in the fifth set at 5-all at deuce. It's not, hey, this is no problem. Let me have a martini and I'll take a break. I think what's brilliant about that share is that anecdote is that if Vern consciously had the awareness to read the room, if you will, and say, wait a minute, wait a minute. Whether he was really burning quads or not, and let's just say he was, but it was like this hyper conscious awareness to say, wait a minute, I need to decompress the space here. They shouldn't feel pressured. Everybody feel perfect, now, as opposed to waiting for a more critical dynamic moment that you could actually be in trouble.
And I was the only woman in the group, so it was all men. And I'm pretty small, as you know. So I'm about 5 foot 410 pounds. And so I see these big guys who are 6 foot 2, 6 foot 4, 220 pounds, a foot taller than me, twice my weight. And they can carry a pack. 30 pounds is a lot more for me to carry 30 pounds is a lot more exhausting than somebody who's a foot taller than me and twice
Sure.
my weight. And 30 pounds is a much smaller percentage of their body weight, and they can move faster. And I would look at these guys with these long legs and these big lungs and these strong, these big, strong guys, and thinking, oh my gosh, how am I gonna climb alongside them? And how am I gonna be as strong as they are? And I realized I don't have to be as strong as they are. I just have to be as strong as I can be. And I just have to be the person that will not quit. Because there were a couple of guys in our group that didn't get to the summit of Mount Elbrus. We had, unfortunately, a couple of injuries, a dislocated knee and a broken ankle.
Oh,
Two different
you
guys on
know,
the trip. But
just a day in the office, right?
yeah, well, the funny thing is the first guy dislocated his knee, and he was the biggest guy on our team.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh my god, how are we gonna get this guy down?" Well, I mean, and this is about, like, talk about, like, innovation and figuring out how to do what you need to do with the resources you have at the time, because sometimes you're not gonna get any more resources, right? In the business world too. No more money, no more resources, you gotta make it work with what you have. So, this guy dislocated his knee. Vern taught us how. He's like, "Take off your jackets." We took off our Gore-Tex jackets, and we used our Gore-Tex jackets and our trekking poles to make a stretcher for this guy out of our poles and Gore-Tex jackets. So we
Mm.
made a stretcher so we could get Lewis down. And as we were carrying him down, one of the other guys on our team managed to break his ankle. So now we have
Oh,
two guys that we have to get down. But it was just another great lesson from Vern is you have the resources you have to make them work. Be creative. Look, what do you have around you that you can use,
yeah,
right? When you need support. What do
yeah,
you already have? Instead of just saying, I don't have what I need. Oh, we don't have a stretcher, we're screwed. No, we
yeah.
got to figure this out. You can figure it out. You can with usually with the resources you have at the time.
Well, there's a great through line here where, first your leader gave permission to people to not be this toxic positivity, which is just, a great leader creating a culture or a space or an environment or an ambiance where truth can be told.